Alrighty, so folks, thank you very much for joining me today. Today I have my very first recorded mentorship session. So Arte and I, we got connected on LinkedIn. We started talking about his career, and he started talking about his strategy and what he was doing to try to make his way into development and really get a career. Really resonated with me and what a lot of the people I talk to actually have to deal with. So I thought it'd be interesting to have Arte on the call and just talk about his strategy here. So Arte, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Mahamud Arteh. I'm a recently graduated full stack software developer, and I got to talking with Brian about how I could get started, and today hopefully we'll get that done.
Yep, awesome. Alrighty, so why don't we start a little bit with your background? So where did you come from? What made you transition into technology, and what did that path look like?
Well, I was born and raised in Manchester, England, and after secondary school, which over here we finish at about 16, I
Hmm.
then went to college. And since college, I kind of lost my way a bit in terms of what I was doing in general with my life. Like I did very well in school, and then after it was kind of like a more like finance became more of my concern than skills, and
Hmm.
I just lost my way as a teenager. And then not so long ago, I've been working a few of these jobs that have come up due to the pandemic, and through working those and through the pandemic itself, spending some time alone, I came to realize that at my age now, 24, I haven't a lot to show for this for the grades that I got in school.
Hmm.
So I really want to get my stuff back on track. So all I've done up to then is customer service, and over the last year, I've helped out with the pandemic, with the government calling like positive cases and things like that.
Right.
And this year, earlier on this year, a friend of mine, suggested that I take on a coding boot camp that North Coders were giving.
Hmm.
And that just since then it's all been going so fast. To be honest, I've gone from 4 months ago. I was unsure as to what I was going to get from the course, and at the end of it, I was shocked as to what I was able to do so quickly.
Really?
Yeah,
So, and it was how long was the boot camp? Like, how long was the education portion of it?
14 weeks altogether, and 1 week was
Wow.
taken as a careers week.
Oh
And
wow. Okay. So that is fast. So usually the boot camps I've dealt with, which have mostly been in the United States, usually been closer to 6 months or so, is what I've heard. And even then, they say it's breakneck speed. So so what program did you go into? Like, what was the discipline, and like what was the study? Like, what did you actually produce during your time?
yeah, so North Coders, they are there to provide you with the skills to start a career as a software developer. And
Hmm.
from what I remember, I think I pretty much remember the course, what goes on through the weeks. So before the course, you're subject to an entry exam, and I had zero experience, and they said you basically, if you have none, you should take a few weeks to take these free code camp and code wars materials, and
Hmm.
once you complete them, take our entry test, and if you pass that, you can get on basically to the course. So I was excited when I got the opportunity, and I just looked at the calendar and set it to I think 2 weeks from when I was looking at it. And they said that if you have zero experience, you should maybe take longer than that. But
Hmm.
upon realizing how long I had, I just thought I've got to spend every day just learning as much as I can then.
Right.
So I just about passed the test and got onto the course, which I felt very good about. And then the course straight away, even then after that test, the 2 weeks between that and the course, there's a lot of pre-course materials they would like you to do. So this is like to do with using GitHub and learning command line basics, so that when we get into the JavaScript learning and things like that, nobody's stuck on the things that should like kind of simple.
Right. The prerequisites.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time on that sort of stuff as well before the course. And then the course from week 1 to 4 is the fundamentals of JavaScript.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of mathematical based stuff. So they get you to do a lot of maths with JavaScript. And looking back on it, I see why that was so useful, because getting things done now in terms of like when I want to do something like send a request for information and get it done, the in between part, like the middleware and the things like that, using array methods and all of that is very easy for me now because of all of that practice that they had us doing. So the first 4 weeks were the fundamentals, and then weeks 5 to 7, 3 weeks are the back end principles. Um, and then the week after that, week 7, I believe, is careers week, where they get you to create a CV, have a chat with you at some point about what
Right.
you're looking like. And also throughout the course, there's something called hiring partner presentations. So these are people who make an agreement of some sort with North Coders to present to us, people who are due to graduate, what their companies are like and the offers they have for positions.
Right,
And
right. Like people with industry experience.
yeah, so no, these are actual companies who are looking for candidates. So
Right.
yeah, so they understand how well that North Coders train people. So they would like to take people straight from there once they graduate. So they come on and give us like 1 hour presentations talking about the positions they have and what they would like,
Mm-hmm.
how they would like us to apply afterwards. And
Sure.
so then after the careers week, there's 3 weeks of front end. So that's the only possible criticism I would probably have of the course, is that I'd spent so much doing JavaScript and backend fundamentals that when we got onto that week, HTML and CSS was still new to me. So I
Mm-hmm.
was very behind for a few days, but the intense nature of the learning, anything that I was behind on, I tended to get caught up on, because
Right.
like, I don't know if everyone's like this, but if since I started like learning to code, when even if it was 5 o'clock and they told us like, "Oh guys, take the rest of the day off and get ready for tomorrow," I would just stay at my computer until it was time for bed. And I
Mm.
still do that because I don't know. I think I'm more interested in this than it, like as a job or something. I just like to solve, like, I set a problem for myself,
Sure.
and I can't go to bed until it's done. So
I get that.
so once at the end of the last week of the back end, like part of the course, they had us build a project, and it was basically the whole back end framework of an application, a web application using Postgres, Express, and all that sort of stuff. So that was something I had very much fun doing. I used a lot of test-driven development on that. I think of
Mm.
45 tests it has. And so that was the back end project. The front end one, we then was to build the front end that would host that information that we used earlier in the back end. And that one I didn't do as well on, because, as I said, I was too new to the front end stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I could probably revisit that now and fix it. So then after the front end basics, HTML, CSS, the DOM, things like that, we then moved on to React, and we did a lot of React JS, things like that.
Sure,
And then,
sure.
and then once we completed all the front end fundamentals, we get into the last 3 weeks, which is the project phase. So the whole cohort was split into groups of 5, and it was each of our jobs to create an application of our own that we've thought of, planned the whole everything
As a
into
group project.
yeah.
Okay.
So and we were also challenged to use 3 technologies that we hadn't used before. So our group, we opted to use TypeScript, React Native, and Mongo, because
Mm-hmm.
we used Postgres. We got very good
Right.
at it, so we wanted to use something else. TypeScript, we'd use JavaScript, so we'd figured, although it's different, hopefully it's not too different.
Right.
The last one, React Native, we've only used React for the website applications. So, and that one was actually the one that was the most different, to be honest. I thought
Mm-hmm.
the other might have been the more difficult to learn, but
Mm-hmm.
React Native mixed with TypeScript made it quite a hard task.
Right.
So we started brainstorming basically for the whole first week, and there was a lot of suggestions, things like a dating app and things like that. And I was not really with the idea. And that's another thing I've learned about like this coding thing, like, or like even me when I want to look for a job, like my values and beliefs, I hope they don't like hinder me, but I do not want to like, just break on them because of, like, say I want to be employed or something like that.
Sure.
So eventually we did go with a different idea anyway, and it was the Colby Travel App, which basically is
Mm-hmm.
we provide the information for 31 countries in Europe to travelers. So if, say, someone wants to go from the UK to Amsterdam, then our application lets them know what they would need. So do you need to be vaccinated? Do you need a test within 48 hours or 72? Or and what are the restrictions like over there when you get there?
Mm-hmm.
So our application provides that sort of information. And if it was something that we were able to put out there for real, we would be able to add more features to it, like allow them to book the trip from the application itself and things like that.
Okay.
I felt very good about that project because it showed me how easily I could pick up on new things now that I had gone like through the hardcore learning or that North Coders provides. Like any like it's like right now, like 2 weeks ago, I did a interview and a tech test,
Hmm.
and I felt sorry. I feel like I'm talking so fast that I'm losing my breath.
Go right ahead.
um,
Or take a breath. You're good.
so So I had an interview 2 weeks ago. It's my first ever one, and it's with a company called Regatta. They make clothes that I think, yeah, actually, it happened to be clothes that I wear. So I was very
That's
interested
nice.
straight away. And I got the interview through the jobs board. So this is one of the companies that are after graduates. So they're not saying that we're after a junior but who has 3 years experience, which doesn't, I don't know if they exist. so
Right.
so I had a chat with him. He's a DevOps manager, the guy, and he had been there for 5 years and started as someone just like me, a graduate, and was already a DevOps manager. And that very was like interesting to me because I thought, oh, okay, so you can. It's like there's depending on what your performance is like, you can go up in this game as fast as you like pretty much show
Oh, yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. If you have the skills, I mean, there's very little stopping folks from being able to grow there, particularly if they're showing an inclination on the technology side. So the question is, how do you get into that work stream? How do you get into that path to be able to grow? Which is
Yeah.
really what we're going to be talking about here soon. But yeah, but I want you to continue, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a very good chat with him, and he told me he reassured me on a lot of those things. Like he was saying, like the people who are writing the specifications for these jobs, yeah, on the application they're not too understanding of what is needed. They just put down the list of what technologies are wanted and what years of experience, and
Hmm.
they don't know if those things make sense. Like a junior who has a tech stack that is quite extensive is not going to have much experience in all of them because he will have needed those years to learn them, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And so at the end of that, they gave me a tech test, which was very good, to be honest. It straight away was something that I've never done before, Terraform and AWS. So I got on that day. I think they give it me on the Thursday, and it had more questions than the Terraform question, but that was the one I began with.
Right.
And I began at I believe at about 6 p.m. here, the time here. And that day, I think I slept at about 2 a.m. And that was the 6 hours, the 8 hours I spent doing the Terraform question. It was
Right.
basically, I had to create a Amazon free tier account, set up an S3 bucket, and then create a user and allow that user to have full S3 access. So attach a user policy to that.
That's a good
And
test. Yeah.
yeah, so that I spent hours like switching between methods, like between basket policy users and all of that. Eventually, I think I just created a user policy and gave it the username and then created the user after. And that
Hmm.
just solved the problem. And so once I completed that tech test, I sent that back, and I decided to just talk about my experience on LinkedIn, which has been a big help for me since I started doing that because
Hmm.
I'm putting out there what's happening with me, and sometimes it's very interesting things that other people are interested in.
Hmm.
So I put that out there, what happened, and straight away somebody who'd also graduated from Coders spoke with me on a very good conversation where he told me about he told me that what I was doing was very interesting because usually people come out of North Coders and repeat the projects using the skills they learned in there, and I was showing that I was ready to continue developing after.
Expanding beyond the scope that you've had there. Yes.
Yeah, and through speaking about the DevOps, that I was interested in DevOps, I then got another 2 interviews after that. So that was very interesting to me and pretty much showed me why I should be recording my experiences online. And
Yes.
so beyond that, I graduated on the 24th of September, where we presented the project that we had worked on, me and my team. And just to expand on that a little more, we used like agile working practices. So every morning there were stand-ups. Um, we uh, we ex- we exercised like very good version control on GitHub. So like nobody could make changes to the main branch without a review from someone else. And the presentation I felt went really well. I enjoyed doing that, and
Well, great.
it was very much like it was in front of a lot of people, which I've not done. I don't think I've ever done So I felt very much pressure before it, but I felt better afterwards.
Hmm. Very good. So, all right. So you did the camp, you graduated there, and you had to come up with a strategy for going afterwards. So ultimately, like, what is your end goal here? Is it to get a job? Is it to be able to make your own income with startup? Because we're talking about freelance as well. But what
Yeah.
is your main goal here? Like, what are you trying to accomplish in the short term?
So I believe in the short term, I I basically I'm not fully decided what I'm doing with the freelance thing, but
Sure.
I mean in terms of how much I would slow down on it because it's full steam ahead now. I've got three clients. They're all waiting, they're all expecting me to build something now, and I believe they will be the basis for paying clients anyway.
Hmm.
And as soon as I left the course, the multiple rejections I got kind of annoyed me because I just thought in my head like I've worked roles like customer service and NHS test and trace, and those sort of roles, they you can come in off the street and get them. So
All right.
I felt replaceable all the time when I was working in those jobs. And now I've gone and gained these skills. I know it's not as simple as I've got the skills, accept me. Like the people who are hiring also have to like they kind of have to like you, don't they? But I think that was the problem, getting those rejections and still understanding that despite the fact I have these skills, if I work for someone else, I'm not in control of where my progression and whatnot. So
Let me ask you, when you said you got rejections, were they interviews that you had with people and then you got rejected, or were they just rejections from the application process?
yeah, just straight emails stating that they felt they had someone more suited or the experience isn't there. So sorry. And or just no reason, we're not taking this further. Sorry.
Right.
Things like that.
So I guess the thing I should mention, just being on the other side of that, is that like, so for this sort of experience, coming people out coming out of the boot camps, like rejection is not just typical; it's expected. Like Grayson, who I spoke with last week, he graduated the boot camp. He went out. He's going to get jobs. He applied to 163 jobs and basically got rejected from everything up until that point. But that's just part of the game. It's almost it's very likely that the people who saw your resume just were not that no one saw it. A
Yeah.
recruiter, no one there. It was not a rejection made out of somebody looked at you, they looked at your skills and said no. It was more like a recruiter saw you, somebody who wasn't aware of the position, an automated system went through and said no, you don't have the skills. That's one side of it. So
Yeah.
I would say the thing is that learn not to take that personally, because I can tell you they sure as shit aren't taking it personally.
Yeah.
There are no humans on the other side of that. But I want to go back to something you said before, and it's
Yeah.
the piece of advice I've given to people applying to jobs if we're going down that route, and I think it's at least worth considering for you, is that if you applied like entry level positions, like you're young enough that you could qualify for that side of it, but I've seen most entry level positions, most internships, most apprenticeships are usually reserved for people coming out of a university with a computer science degree and those pathways. And what I mean by reserved, it's not like somebody creates that with the intention of hiring college graduates, but there's a very specific type of person they have in their mind. They want somebody they can mold very easily. So it's not somebody with professional experience, but somebody where that'll be their first job. So somebody they can grow into be a company person.
Yeah.
They're looking for people who have a long trajectory left on their career. They're willing to invest time early on to get someone to spend a lot of time with them later. So they will spend more, so they will invest more time because they think they'll get more out of them long term. And quite honestly, they can pay them less. I mean, the
Yeah.
truth is that those entry level positions are, kind of training jobs. So they're kind of they fit a different qualification. I have rarely seen people coming out of boot camps, particularly those with professional experiences, like they worked in an office, they've dealt with hard situations, get those jobs. I
Yeah.
have seen them be way more successful applying to mid-level jobs. And the reason for that is because when you go into those positions and you start talking to people where you have a professional background, the soft skills can sometimes make up for the deep well of knowledge that you should get. Like if a mid-level engineer, who perfectly fits the job description or at least well enough, may not have to make up those sides. But somebody coming out of boot camp who has an interesting background, who's working hard, who's learning new skills, and you'll often get justified where it said, well, they're not as deep technically, but I know they can learn, and I know their professional experience, the wide range of knowledge that they have will make up for that experience. And honestly, for you, just hearing how you're learning DevOps on your own, you're going the extra mile. That sounds like you're getting close to that position, or at least somewhere there. Like, because you weren't in a DevOps position, but you learned those skills. Like the hire that I just recently made for my group, I'm an engineering manager at IBM, actually in running an SRE team. So I'm very familiar with your space. Actually had no experience as anything, honestly. He was a product owner for another company. He started off as a forklift driver like a decade ago. But because he had a lot of professional experience and because he taught himself DevOps and he could answer the technical questions, we went and said, yeah, he's worth the risk, and we're willing to hire him on, not because of his strength technically, but because of his breadth that he had that he could fit in. That's something you may want to consider for your strategy.
Yeah.
That's one thing I would say. The other thing I would also mention too is, first off, you took freelance work, and the fact that you said yes is very impressive. That's that's really good work there, and we'll talk about what a freelance strategy looks like. But I would also say you're so early on in the process, like less than 3 months if you haven't applied, unless you've, or I guess it's not 3 months, if you haven't applied to 100 jobs, like if you're applying to jobs and getting interviews, you're still doing well. Like the hopeless cases are the ones where you need to like something is seriously misaligned. But when somebody applies to 100, 200 jobs and gets no interviews whatsoever, none, that's where you know there's some fundamental misalignment. Unlike somebody I talked to the other day was like at 75 to 100, interviews. And again, rejections or hearing nothing. But I asked them, it's like, okay, are you getting interviews? And it's like, yeah, I'm getting interviews. Like, I feel like if I keep working this process, it'll eventually get there. So that's something else that you may want to consider, that perhaps if you really buckled down on that process, you would get a job. Because I can tell you, you do have the sort of background that people would find attractive in these ways. But okay, but let's get to freelance versus not. So why did you choose freelancing? Like, what drew you to that sort of work?
So as I was getting towards completing the course, I think quite a few weeks before it, when I made the LinkedIn and made it clear what I was doing, I think I got a message from a recruiter who told me to contact him as soon as I finished. And that got me very excited. Like, given that there was 6 weeks left, I was just thinking like there's a job waiting for me at the end of the 14
Right.
weeks. This is amazing. And then I think after the course, I kind of forgot to message him straight away for like I think a week or two, because I was very busy with just making lots of applications and getting started on the freelance thing. But that, what that, as I said, not the what you said before in terms of expecting rejection. I absolutely agree with you. I expect it, but the anxiety of the waiting for the job and the fact that you can go broke in that time waiting is was why I kind of thought I think I should use my skills on the side as well as as well as to what's it called? Use it as a side to get a side income as well as to get myself the commercial experience to get the
Yeah,
things.
that's a very wise choice. It's actually what I've been teaching people, or that's the next scale, because most people just commit to job hunting. And for some people that works, right? There is something to be said where if you have to get a job right now, you can mechanize the process so much that you can make it through. You get a resume that looks good enough, and if you just apply to enough jobs, eventually you'll hit something.
Yeah,
Usually within 300 resumes. That if you do more than 300 and you're not getting interviews, something is fundamentally wrong with the process. Resume is bad, you're not well aligned, there's something wrong with the strategy. You strike me as somebody who you could go down that route if you wanted to. But honestly, doing the, I'll call it, entrepreneurial route could lead you to a lot more interesting opportunities. And I guess this is the part where, look, most people that I've interacted with are looking for a job. They don't want to do the side work. I'm trying to encourage them to do the side work, not for the purpose of starting their own thing, but because it's good for their career. I mean, that's the thing. I've taught myself serverless development, and that got me employed in different opportunities. I've taught myself blockchain, that got me employed in different opportunities. I've taught myself all these side skills, and like I'm learning 3D modeling right now and getting into spatial computing. That's interesting to me. But for me, it's always for the purpose of learning and opening up new opportunities. Most people just want the experience to get into a job, and they want that to be their main thing. If
Mm.
you have the inclination to want to go out and do stuff with your free time, that's going to serve you for a very, very long time. I mean, if you love development, if you like going this direction, you can start using that time to. So let me give you an example. You have freelance work. We'll talk. I promise we'll talk about strategies there in a second. This is. I think this will be helpful to you. You go get that freelance work, you get commercial experience, then you find something that gives you a full-time income or a side income or whatever it is. Basically, you go and get steady. And you really, that's a good place to get in. Get safe, get steady, know you have an income coming. But then you decide, okay, great. I know what full stack development is, but now SRE looks interesting, site reliability engineering or DevOps. I'm going to look at that. Or maybe I want to look into AI, or hey, I'm on Twitter and I'm hearing a lot about Web3 and Solidity and blockchain. What if I can go do that? You can build yourself a foundation to then go and figure out, how do I go and move myself into a new industry? If VR starts to take off and you want to go learn game development all of a sudden, or spatial computing, you have a method to be able to go do that. So I, I guess I would say, see the freelancing through to the end and see if this is something that you can tolerate, at the very least tolerate, if not even enjoy, because that could be something that could be your entryway into not just this industry, but pretty much every tech future that you have there.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
was I was going to mention that as well. One thing I've like in the last 3 weeks, like you said, the job search thing, you can mechanize like something I've done in my life. Whenever I felt I'm really in an emergency, I've not worked for a long time, and I noticed that this is not good. I need to get it together. I'll suddenly apply for 100 entry level jobs, and one of them will say, "Yeah, yeah, you can start next Saturday," and it's like, "Yes, thank you, amazing."
Right.
Um, but in terms of for a tech career, I don't think that's my approach, to be honest, because if I'm looking at a company that's working on something that I'm not interested in or don't like specifically, I kind of don't want to apply just for anything until I get into somewhere that I don't like. But
Hmm.
that's not what I was making a point of anyway. I have been job searching hard since I graduated 3 weeks ago. I think I've applied to 40 jobs and had 3 interviews and one more
Oh,
upcoming.
wow.
And whilst I have been doing that, I still also haven't got it. But in that 3 weeks, I also have a friend of mine recently opened a restaurant around the corner from me, and he kind of got excited by the whole, oh, I have a friend who's able to make a website and an app and things like that. He's not very much sure about what he wants to do with his newly established business yet. So I wanted to take on a whole project for him, as in help him create a digital infrastructure for his new business.
Yes.
And he was not too excited about the website thing yet. So, but what he really wanted at the time was a leaflet designed that he could send out to addresses and a banner to put outside of his shop. And I've never done anything to do with Photoshop. In fact, I was terrible at it a month ago. But I just thought in my head, like, I think I should take this on, because if I can set up a business website for a small business and also create the promotional content, say if the owner's not that proactive about getting themselves customers from online, if I can help them do that, that's a pretty good thing I can add to my commercial
That's a
experience.
that's a phenomenal thing to add to your design, to be able to say you did that. I mean,
Mm.
honestly, you should structure the deal and saying, okay, I'll make your banner, I'll make your portfolio. You have to let me make your website.
Yeah,
You have to let me make your website, because that's the thing. Because you're right, because they do fit into each other. Because again, you have to do a cohesive design. But it says like, look, because here's the thing: you don't need, it's good experience to have. It's good to build into your talent stack. That's a really nice skill set to have. But at your core, you're like, I need web development experience. You want banners, I need a website. So you're going to get a website, you're going to like it, and you're going to tell everyone how awesome it is.
yeah,
And I'll give you that other stuff. If he says yes to that, man, that's a really good deal. And by
yeah.
you're
He
going
actually
down an okay path. Like this is good stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I it took me about a week to get the leaflet thing done, like because I was going through tutorials and whatnot with Photoshop. But that has helped me to now do like add that to my service. Basically, like say someone wants to get online, but they haven't created a logo or they've not got everything set up yet. I can say I'll take on those tasks as well for you, and that can be later on a part of my freelancing package. And for now, just a great help that I give to a small business. So yeah, once I gave him the completed leaflet and he printed them out, I then spoke with him and said, listen, although I've helped you with what you've wanted, there's this thing that I would like experience in. So I'm going to create a business contract for us where I now that I've done the leaflet and banner, I now let me create a website, maybe mobile app. I'm not so sure about that because I think that's too much of a workload for me, because I can create the website using a CMS.
Yeah, right, right.
I'm not sure if there's many things that can help me build an app easily, like templates or whatnot, but I'll look into that. But yeah, so I've got him to agree to the website. And what's great about my starter clients is that none of them have a time frame where they're like, I want it done by this time, or I don't want you. It's like, you can help me with this, thank you, please.
Mm.
And as I said, I didn't mention, but I was going to say, since I've come off the course, I kind of expected that I would maybe in my free start spending more of my time away from the computer. But I still find that I wake up, make sure I've had breakfast, and just get to my desk and continue building either
Mm.
applications or building me online, because that's the long-term plan. As I said, is to build an online presence for myself so that hopefully I don't have to rely on. Eventually, I wouldn't like to rely on clients or employers. I'd like to sell something myself and have time to work on the things I like. So
And you're heading down that path, mind you. I mean, that's the really good place to go. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There is some major benefits to being able to work full time to get a career, because it solves a lot of problems at once,
yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's not as flexible, and you do have that cut there. I mean, here's the thing: like, the reason most people don't do what you're doing is that they can't do the sales, they can't do the persuasion, they can't go off, and they honestly are kind of sickened by doing the nights and weekends. Like, honestly, like, the fact that we're both up on a Saturday, well, it's a Saturday afternoon for you later in the day, but I'm in a Saturday morning, I'm working, and this is just normal for me. Most people can't deal with that. If you can find a way to make that easy for yourself or even enjoyable, yeah, you should do that. I mean, like, I found this, like, now I'm in the process of building a personal brand right now. And I found that, like, I've been waking up at 5 o'clock. I go work out hard, get up, and I start doing videos. I start making content. I start talking to people. I help. So it's like, the fact, if you can do that, like, look, there's certain environments that it's easier to learn, like, particularly for you in SRE. If you want to learn SRE, I love it, but you got to be at a big company. Same thing with, like, deep database sort of technology. Analytics you can do on your own, but, like, building databases, sometimes you got to work for a big company. But if you have the skills to build it on your own, man, keep driving that home. Like, keep building it up. Like, you do need to get paid, so maybe that's why you pick up the job that you need, to build your skills there. But don't lose this element. This is like, mother's milk, when it comes to actual career development. So this is yeah, that's it. I don't it sounds like, Artie, you don't really need my help. You're doing all the things I would recommend, and this is what I have to teach other people.
Yeah, do you know what? I would say I straight away, a big thing that helped me also was that went onto something called Z Library where you can get free books, and just
Oh,
took 3 freelancer guides from there, and 2 of them were very good, like in terms of what they got for me to do. The first thing I did was create a business plan. I wouldn't have thought of that myself, but now that I have, and I've revisited it twice, it's very detailed now to the point where I think it's pretty much done. And when I saw a part about niching down, I was very interested in that part because I didn't want to at first niche down. I like the idea of taking on lots of different things, but my first 3 projects now are, one is for the newly opened restaurant, a website. Another one's for a friend. He's got a clothing line that he opened, and I've bought the domain. I'm ready to develop, and he just needs to get that online. And another one is a mobile app for a fitness coach. So these are 3 very different things, and I can now get those 3 things done, and I can maybe review my experience building each one and decide maybe I like to pick this niche because it's a cool thing to do, and I liked developing that one for that client. So I think
right.
I'll probably niche down to something more specific soon, other than just small businesses.
Right. And honestly, I'm surprised we're having this discussion, because you're way more advanced than I was expecting you to be. So, well, let me ask: do you really love freelancing, or is it just about the money right now? I mean, again, but you love tech, you like that. I don't mean just the money, but are you feeling drawn because you love that interaction, or is it that it's a way for you to get paid and it's in technology, so it's lined up? Basically, are you married to the idea of that? Because I'm about to throw something else out to you.
I think I'm very much married to it because of how much research I have done into it. Because if it was something, I think I know what I'm like when I'm doing something for the money. I do the minimal and maybe even less than that
Okay.
if I can get away with it. And the fact I bought books, I paid for subscriptions that are helping me create my brand theme, and I've announced it on all my social medias, made the themes like relevant to my business, announced it on LinkedIn too. I don't think I'm taking it like as something non-serious.
Okay.
Especially, I could have. I don't know. At first, I worried when I started announcing it on LinkedIn because I thought maybe I'll be hindering myself from people who would like to hire me by saying that I'm trying to work for myself here. But at the same time, I don't think so because I think
No.
that's like because as I just said, in that 3 weeks since I left my graduation, everyone who was in my class from North Coders, they've then created a WhatsApp group because they'd like to keep in contact.
Right.
And from what I can tell, everyone's just straight away left the course, got their heads down on applications, and everyone's a lot of them are messaging each other like, "What's going on? This is hard. This is hard." And in my head, I'm just thinking, I need to keep building something, just keep building things for people so that instead of me looking for jobs, and like I said, it's a bit difficult for me to come to the like be rational when I get rejected. Like sometimes when it's the 30th one, you might start to forget to think, oh, this should be expected. You might start to
Sure.
think, what is it? Am I not liked for some reason? And so I like the idea of me continuing to build myself and like getting contacted in the way I have been getting contacted because I'm receiving messages on LinkedIn from people saying I work for such and such, and if you can send me your CV, I'll see if I can help you with roles if I find any. I very much like that idea than me chasing the work, as in searching who's hiring and where to go. Um, I will do that anyway, but I really like
Right.
the idea of documenting what's going on for myself on LinkedIn and getting told by people you're doing something good there for yourself, keep going. Because sometimes you might forget that if you've got no feedback for a while that you're doing something
Right.
good.
Right. So, okay, I guess this is what I'll open your mind up to. So, for people who can work on their own and do this stuff, like some people really love being consultants. I love being a consultant. I love that work. I love talking to people. I love communicating. I'm niching down. So for me, like I'm building products, but at its core, it's building this, right? If I'm scaling it, it's like I'm trying to figure out how to scale discussions like this in an interesting way to be able to do that. There's a lot to deal with scale, but it's one type of business, that you can go out and do. For people who know how to work hard, who are willing to teach themselves new skills and going out and selling, pretty much there's a whole world of entrepreneurial ventures that you should consider. I 100% get why you want to commit to being a freelancer. That's a really good thing. Learning to finish it through and seeing like, going through, seeing it, going, getting clients and actually building a business there might be really good. But what I would encourage you to do is while you're doing this, you may be heads down right now. Maybe it's a for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, building this business up and just learning that. And that's going to help you no matter what you go through. I would encourage you though to understand what the tech entrepreneurial ecosystem looks like and how your skills can also be used there. You understand consulting, you understand people, and you understand sales. The building, the selling it is really important, but you're selling and you're building. What you'll find, unless you really love this work like I did, is that like you can only sell to so many people. There's only, even if your branding goes really big, there's many benefits to consulting, but there's a certain limit to how many people you can sell to. You might be like, well, I want to go further. I want to build more. You either can hire people or you can go into building products. And what you can then do is redeploy that same exact energy you were going into something that is very hard to scale, which is people, relationship, clients, etc., and into something that scales much, much better, much faster, much broader, and to build yourself a business that can basically grow overnight. What I would say is that I mean, that's the thing. I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like I'm going into a personal branding, a business that is related to people who want to make career changes. But one of the things I do is I deal with founders constantly, and you sound like one of those folks. You're talking like them.
Um,
You have energy like them.
you know
I
what?
would say
While
again.
that word is interesting to me because I do get that sometimes when I do leave my computer, like because I do go to the mosque to pray a few times a day and go out to get stuff. I find that I'm thinking of ideas like ways to like an application or a web app, something like that, that I would really like to like do and get built. But then I just think in my head like right now it's I don't know, between like money and whatnot. I get confused as to where to put my priorities
Right.
sometimes. But a big one of mine is what you said as well, just continuing to build what's going on for me online, because it's all the little steps right now that will help me to build something big later. So like, just like I said, 4 months ago, if someone asked me to do a for loop, I would not know what to do. But
Right.
yesterday, a friend of mine needed help with to get understanding for loops and for reaches for an entry exam that he did yesterday. And I went on 2 Zoom calls with him for 2 days and helped him through his materials to
It's
prepare.
wonderful.
And yesterday he passed, and he's going to get onto the North Coders course next month. So two of my friends are joining that course next month that live close to me and I'm very friendly with. So in the long term, I would like my business to be not just one freelancer myself, my friends too, because I know they are definitely interested in, once they get these skills from the
Right.
course, they would also be interested in working with me on projects, like say that could have us all self-employed if we'd like.
Right. So, okay, yeah, that's very interesting. You have options, and these are not bad options. Like that's the thing. Like when you don't have financing or you don't have money, solving that is important. I get that. So like yeah, definitely resolve that as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because once you stop feeling that pressure and you can feel just comfortable, like I'm gonna make enough money to get through this next whatever period. I don't have to worry about money right now. That's when the really cool stuff can come out. So how about this? You seem to be doing well on the freelancing side. I don't think I have any advice that would take you further than you've already gone with yourself. Other than like you've learned all the business stuff. What I would really encourage you to do is get involved with your tech entrepreneurial ecosystem, people that go through, people that talk to that, not for this purpose of being sidetracked by them. You want to start being influenced by them early. That's the thing, your working hours, and I like distinguishing working and experimental hours, like play and work. Your working hours should be heads down. You're gonna commit to this, you're gonna go in that direction. But you should open up a window, and it's just play. It's just I'm experimenting, I'm exploring, there's no effort, whatever. Start to get influenced by those ecosystems. Go through and find out what they're talking about. See the businesses they're doing. And I actually have two ecosystems for you or two places that I'd recommend. One of them is there's an entrepreneur called his name is Sahil, but he's a guy who started Gumroad about a decade ago, and he just recently he recently he's releasing a book called The Minimalist Entrepreneur. Really fascinating ideas behind him. But he has a whole ecosystem of builders online that are on Discord. People just building small businesses, going through this idea. He wrote an article called No Meetings, No Deadlines, No Full-Time Employees. And it's a philosophy of how to build a business, in a direction there. And actually I know people in my area, Raleigh, North Carolina, that are doing exactly that. That's how I got introduced. Being a part of a Discord group like that, just to start talking with them, would be good to influence your thinking. The second thing is I know actually an entrepreneur who's been building a product in his free time for over a year now. It's a product that I use daily for my day job. And somebody like him might be good for you to speak to, just to get a perspective of what are other people doing? What is an option here? Because you're doing the consulting route, but like at some point you may go and say, well, if I needed to go in another direction, what might that look like? So if you don't mind, I'll get you introduced to those two groups. And I think it'll benefit you as a person and an entrepreneur and really open your mind to these other subjects while you're going heads down on getting a job and doing freelancing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because that's one of the things I have been trying to do recently, is connect with other developers online. And it's been successful for me on LinkedIn. I've made one or two friends. And even 2 days ago, when I made it kind of known on there that I'd taken on 3 client projects. And at the end of the post, when I said that I had done that, I decided that I felt a bit overwhelmed at this time. And I thought in my head, maybe there are some other people who are in the exact same position as me out there, as in like, there's no jobs that are accepting them at the moment, and they would like to maybe build some experience or even get started as a freelancer. So I kind of made a reach out saying, if there's anybody in the same position as me, would like to just help me build something for someone, get it online and use it as their own case study and testimonial, then let's get together and do that, so that it can help me with the 3 projects I'm building. And I can also pick up on another skill, which is like if I ever get towards a point in freelancing where I would like to hire other people to do things for me quickly, parts of my
Management.
project, then I can learn to manage other people. And that is very important because the first thing I learned being a freelancer when I dealt with somebody who I thought wanted a website, and then 3 days later, their excitement for it and their desire for it was gone, and I was all ready to buy a domain for them and get ready to go. I was very much deflated. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to be a freelancer because people are wishy-washy. Like they'll say, I want a website today, and tomorrow say, you know what, I've changed my decision. So that after, when I got my first sure client, that's what made me think, okay, there's a process to getting a client that's sure, and there should be a business contract too, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Good. Yeah. Wonderful ideas. That is awesome. Well, Artie, we're about at the end of our time here. Artie, thank you so much. This was a very different discussion than I was expecting, but you're very energizing. You're heading in a good place. I mean, 40 applications and 3 interviews is a really great opportunity. Let me put it this way. I'm not worried about you getting a job. Just keep going. You will get a job. You will get a position. The bigger opportunity for you though is this freelance side, because you're showing so much energy here. It's like I want to get you connected with the people that will just grow that mentality. You'll find a job, you'll do okay there. But if you can grow this other side, you could have so much more. And I've seen that happen with other people. So let me get you connected with these other groups, and hopefully get to see more of your personal branding on LinkedIn. I mean, that sounds great. Personal branding's great. We didn't even get to talk about that.
Absolutely. I did yesterday. I posted all my new logos and things like that, and the company announcement that we're open and things like that. So if you could see my latest post, it should be there.
Oh, wonderful. I'll make sure to promote that as part of the post when I put this out there. So, Artie, is there anything you'd like to say before we close off?
Um, is this for YouTube? Did you say?
Yeah, this will be YouTube or as part of a brand. I'm not. Again, I'm not 100% sure where this is going. This is kind of experimental to do mentorship, so it'll be out. It'll be out there in the world.
Yeah. All I would just say is a note for anybody who's in a similar position to me again is that each of these little steps that I'm taking that is helping me to that is giving me more confidence and helping me towards where I would like to go. They're things that I procrastinate about first. So the last few each LinkedIn post that I'm putting up, I tend to write them and then leave it and be like, oh, I'm not sure how I'm getting the message across. I feel terrible, and just throw it away. But then later on, I just beat myself up and say, no, get this together, and just put it out there. And that anxiety there, that part that stops you from making that great decision is something we should all learn to get over, because it's really stopping us from great opportunities. And it's working for me, so I would say it will work for you too.
Yeah, great ending comment there. Thank you very much, Ari. So, folks, thank you very much for spending some time with us. You can see, you'll be able to see more of Artie's stuff online. I'll make sure to post a link down below for your website and the different things you're doing. And yeah, Artie, thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Thank you very much to you too, Brian.